"What is this dirty pregnant woman doing at my wedding? There's no way she was invited," Stella said with rage. Before the crowd could tell what was going on, she threw hands at the poor woman, angrily punching and pushing her, throwing different punches at her all at once. The groom? The billionaire husband-to-be? He was frozen, speechless. But the beating was not the most shocking, part because the poor, heavily pregnant woman raised her head up with all the bruisings and pains and said, "Go on, beat me all you want," she said with angry tears in her eyes. "But today, I will expose all your secrets. I will reveal everything. This wedding ends now." The crowd went silent. Every music stopped. This is the story of a poor lady, whose story changed the day. She met a kind-hearted billionaire, but what seemed like a blessing soon turned into a nightmare when his gold-digging girlfriend threatens her life. It all started one Monday morning. Kevin, the young billionaire CEO, was on his way to the most important meeting of his entire life. One signature today would secure billions in investments, locking down properties and businesses that had taken him years to build. Everything, his wealth, his reputation, his empire, was tied to that meeting. The morning sun was sharp, but Kevin's thoughts were sharper. He drove fast, his black car slicing through the streets like a knife. Just before the highway, he stopped briefly to collect a delivery, a brown envelope of confidential documents that would decide the future of his company. He slid the papers carefully under his suit jacket for protection and stepped back toward his car. Then, a thunderous honk. Kevin froze. A massive trailer roared down the narrow road, water rushing beneath its tires. There was no space to dodge. In one terrifying second, the trailer sped past, splashing a tidal wave of muddy water all over him. His perfectly pressed suit, ruined. His white shirt, soaked, dripping filth. The important documents, safe under his jacket, but his appearance? A disaster. Kevin's jaw tightened. His chest burned with panic. If he showed up like this, no one would take him seriously. They would hand the deal to his rival without hesitation. Frustrated, he looked around, desperate for a solution. That's when he saw it. A small, weathered kiosk at the corner of the street. Wooden walls, a rusted roof, paint peeling from years of struggle. And inside stood a young woman. Her name was Amara. She looked up, surprised to see a man like him at her stall. She had been struggling for weeks, barely getting customers. Behind her kind smile was her own suffering, an arm that had never fully healed from sickness, leaving her in constant pain. Yet, when she saw Kevin's distress, her first words were, "Don't worry, sir. I can help you." Her voice was soft, steady. Kevin blinked, caught off guard. He had never been spoken to with such simple kindness. That Monday morning, covered in mud on the roadside, was the moment their worlds collided, and neither of them knew. This small act of kindness would unravel secrets that could destroy lives and stop a wedding before it ever began. Kevin kept going back to Amara's kiosk. At first, it was just for quick fixes. She cleaned his suits, pressed his shirts, always smiling with a quiet strength. But soon, he found himself drawn to her kindness. Sometimes, she would come to his mansion herself, carrying neatly pressed suits in a small nylon bag. Kevin was used to boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, but somehow, her presence in his home felt warmer than any wealth he had ever known. One evening, while delivering his clothes, Amara finally opened up. Her mother was gravely ill. Medical bills were piling up. She hadn't told him before because of pride. Kevin, moved by her honesty, took it upon himself to pay for her mother's treatments. That simple act tightened their bond, and soon, they were inseparable. Late nights at the hospital turned into stolen conversations in his car. One night, as rain pattered against the windshield, Kevin leaned closer. "I want to know your story, Amara. Everything. Who you really are." She lowered her gaze, her lips trembling. "I'll tell you soon." Then she kissed him. The kiss deepened, and that night, they made love in his car, two worlds colliding in a way neither of them planned. Kevin thought he had found a pure-hearted woman who cared for him beyond his wealth. But he didn't know she carried secrets that could burn everything he owned to the ground. Amara thought she had found a man who would finally take care of her and her dying mother. But she didn't know this blessing would twist into the darkest curse of her life. They both thought love had finally smiled on them. But they had no idea someone was watching. Someone who would not allow this love to survive. Stella had always been in Kevin's life, at least on paper. When Kevin was just a boy, Both families had sealed a deal. His father and Stella's father were close friends, business partners, and allies. To secure the future, they decided that one day, their children would marry. But what Kevin's father never knew was that Stella's father had already lost his empire years ago. His company was gone, his accounts empty. All he had left was influence and pride. Aligning with Kevin's wealthy family was not about friendship anymore, it was survival. In Kevin's father's mind, the marriage would be a powerful union of two strong families. In reality, Stella's family needed Kevin more than Kevin would ever need them. That evening, inside the grand family mansion, voices rose. Kevin's father slammed the table. His mother, elegant but stern, folded her arms. "You must marry Stella," his father barked. "It's the best bet we have right now. This partnership has held us strong for decades. Don't destroy it with childish emotions." Kevin clenched his fists. His voice was calm but firm. "Father, I already have a woman I care about. I've made my choice." His mother shook her head, dismissive. "Kevin, you don't understand. This isn't about your choice. It's about our legacy, our bloodline, our wealth. Marrying Stella keeps everything within the family." He looked between them, his parents who had given him everything but freedom. His jaw tightened. "And what about love? What about what I want?" They exchanged glances. Cold, unmoved. His father leaned forward. "Love doesn't sustain wealth. Partnerships do." For the first time in years, Kevin felt the weight of his golden cage. They didn't care about his heart. They only cared about business. And upstairs, far away from that argument, Amara had no idea that forces bigger than her love story were already being arranged against her. The next morning, Kevin found Amara in tears. She was shaking, her face buried in her palms. "They destroyed it," she sobbed. "Destroyed what?" Kevin asked, panic rising. "My kiosk," she cried. "The only thing I had. The government came with trucks and tore everything down. No warning. No mercy. Everything is gone." Kevin's chest tightened. He could see the despair in her eyes, the hopelessness of losing the only lifeline she had built with her hands. He reached for her hand firmly. "Don't cry, Amara. You're not alone anymore. From now on, you'll stay with me. You'll have a place in my house. I'll take care of you. And everything else." For the first time in days, she managed a weak smile. From that day, Amara became a quiet presence in Kevin's mansion. She cooked simple meals, cleaned when she could, and tried to make herself useful. For Kevin, her presence was comforting. For her, it was survival. But not everyone welcomed her. One afternoon, as Amara folded clothes in the laundry room, a sharp voice cut through the silence. "Oh, so you're the laundry girl?" Stella's heels clicked against the marble floor. She folded her arms, smirking. "Since you're already here, you'll wash all the clothes. You'll scrub the floors. You'll serve me like the maid you are." Amara froze. Her hands trembled. She swallowed her tears and nodded. Day after day, Stella mocked her. She ordered her around, laughed at her worn-out clothes, and made sure Amara never forgot her place. At night, Amara would cry quietly into her pillow, careful not to let Kevin hear. Weeks later, Amara felt something strange, weakness, nausea, a body that didn't feel like her own. She bought a small test with the little money she had left and hid away in her room. The result? Positive. Amara sat on the floor, her hands shaking, tears streaming down her face. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. Her world spun. Kevin was on the verge of marrying Stella. The family had already arranged everything. And now, she was carrying his child. She clutched her stomach, fear flooding her chest. "If they find out, Stella will kill me. Kevin's parents will throw me out. I can't let anyone know." So she made a decision that would change everything. She would hide the pregnancy. But Amara had no idea what was coming next. She thought hiding the pregnancy would keep her safe. But Stella had a plan. An evil plan. That morning, Stella stormed into the kitchen, ready to throw her usual insults. But instead, her eyes caught something on the counter, a small paper folded at the edge of the sink. She picked it up carelessly and froze. Her smirk slowly spread as she realized what it was. A pregnancy test. Amara's pregnancy test. Positive. Pregnant. Stella whispered, her eyes darkening. "So that's your little secret?" Her mind raced. "No, she can't keep this child. If Kevin ever finds out, it will ruin everything. I have to act. And I have to act now." Evil plans activated. Meanwhile, the wedding preparations were already underway. The grandest hall in the city was being decorated with gold, drapes and crystal chandeliers. Kevin, Stella, and his parents toured the venue. But instead of joy, Kevin felt only exhaustion. "I don't want the usual white gown," Stella declared proudly, trying on yet another dress. "I want a gown with diamonds. Real diamonds." Kevin sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "But this one is already perfect. It's not expensive enough," she snapped. "And don't reduce the menu either. I don't care if we have only 100 guests. I want food for 500. I want it to be the most expensive wedding this city has ever seen." Her parents laughed softly. "Oh, that's just our Stella. She deserves the best." Kevin nodded slowly, but inside, something shifted. He was beginning to see just how spoiled she really was. Back at the mansion, Stella cornered him one evening with a cruel demand. "That girl, Amara, she must leave this house. I don't care if she sleeps in the smallest room. I don't want her here anymore." Kevin tried to reason with her. "But Stella, you don't understand. Amara is not just a maid. When I was stranded, she was the one who helped me. No one else. Without her, I would have lost everything. She's been helping around the house, doing what you don't do. How can I just throw her out?" But Stella only smiled coldly. Because in her mind, she already knew the truth. She already knew about Amara's pregnancy. And she already knew how she would use it to destroy her. What do you think Stella is planning to do with Amara's secret? If you were Amara, would you confess to Kevin about your pregnancy? Or keep hiding it, knowing Stella is plotting something? That night, after Amara had cooked and packed food neatly in the fridge for the next day, Stella moved like a shadow. The mansion was quiet, the lights dim, Kevin fast asleep in his room. Amara, exhausted, was curled up in her bed. Stella tiptoed carefully, clutching a small bottle tightly in her palm. Inside, a dark liquid swirled. She looked around, her eyes sharp, her breath shallow. What was in that bottle? Nobody knew. The house was silent, too silent. She moved closer, her heels muffled against the tiles. Slowly, she opened the fridge, glanced back one more time, and uncapped the bottle. A few drops fell into Amara's food. She stirred it lightly, then covered it back as though nothing had happened. With a wicked smile, she slipped away into the shadows. The next morning, Amara woke up groggy. Her stomach was already heavy with morning sickness. Still, she forced herself up. She swept the compound, washed clothes, and pushed through the fatigue like she always did. By the time she was done, she was too weak to stand. So she sat, opened the fridge, and ate from the food she had cooked. Minutes later, something felt wrong. Her stomach churned violently. She held her side, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. "What's happening to me?" she whispered, staggering. Her hands trembled. She gripped her stomach tighter, panic rising. Is this normal morning sickness? Or is it something else? Was Amara poisoned? Did Stella slip an abortion pill into her food? Or was it something far worse? Kevin was in his office downtown when the call came. His driver burst into the building, panicked. "Sir, Amara collapsed at home." Kevin's heart dropped. Without a second thought, he grabbed his keys, stormed out, and sped through traffic like a madman. Tires screeched as he raced back to the mansion. He found Amara barely conscious, curled on the floor, clutching her stomach. "Amara, stay with me," Kevin shouted, lifting her in his arms. He rushed her to the hospital, his chest pounding with fear. And as Stella watched him carry Amara with such desperation, her eyes narrowed. For the first time, she saw the truth. Kevin didn't just care for Amara. He loved her. But instead of giving up, Stella's resolve grew darker. If he loves her this much, she thought bitterly, then I'll just have to destroy her completely. Kevin sat in the hospital corridor, his head buried in his hands. His shirt was rumpled, his eyes red from crying, and his face pale with exhaustion. He hadn't been to work in days. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't even spoken a full sentence. Beside him, Stella placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression soft and full of fake concern. "Kevin, you have to be strong," she whispered, leaning close as though she cared. "Amara would want you to be fine. You'll get through this." Kevin didn't even respond. Just then, the doctor stepped out. His face was grim, his eyes downcast. Kevin shot to his feet instantly. "Doctor, please. Tell me she's okay. Please." The doctor sighed, removed his glasses, and shook his head slowly. "I'm sorry. Amara didn't make it." The hallway fell silent. Kevin staggered back, clutching his chest. No, That's not true. She was fine yesterday. She was talking. Please, let me see her. Let me just see her one last time. The doctor avoided his eyes. I'm sorry, Mr. Kevin. Her body has already been sent to her family. Stella knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around him tightly, pretending to cry too. It's okay, Kevin. I'm here for you. You still have me. But inside, her heart was ice cold. That night, Kevin sat alone in his mansion. He stared at Amara's folded clothes still stacked neatly in the corner. He remembered her laugh, her gentle voice. The way she always said, "Don't worry, I'll help you." And now she was gone. His biggest torment was how to break the news to her sick mother. How could he look that woman in the eyes and tell her that the only daughter who kept her alive was no more? Kevin buried his face in his hands and wept like a child. To the world, to Stella, to Kevin, Amara was dead. But what they did not know was this. When Stella slipped the doctor millions in cash, she whispered her order coldly. Make sure Amara never comes out of that hospital alive. The doctor nodded then, but when he stood by Amara's bed later that night, holding the syringe in his hand, he froze. Her face was pale, her body weak, but her spirit, he could feel it, was pure. He lowered his voice. Amara, listen to me. They paid me to kill you. They paid me millions to end your life tonight. But I can't. I can't do it. I see light in you, girl. I know you're a good person. Amara's eyes widened in horror, her lips trembling. What? Who would? The doctor pressed a finger to his lips. If you value your life, you must disappear. Don't go back to Kevin. Don't stay in this city. Stella and her people are powerful. If they realize you're alive, they'll come again. Go home. Go back to your village. Hide until the time is right. He pulled the drip from her arm and whispered urgently. Run, Amara. Run now. And so, while Kevin mourned, while Stella celebrated her victory in silence, Amara slipped away into the night, vanishing like a ghost. To the world, she was gone. But in truth, her story had only just begun. As Amara stumbled down the lonely road, her hands clutching her swollen belly and her eyes burning with tears, the weight of her world pressed harder than ever. Her mother was far away, sick and fragile, depending on her. Kevin, the only man who had shown her kindness, was left behind, still blind to Stella's schemes. And Stella, dangerous and desperate, would not stop until Amara was gone for good. Just when she thought the night could not grow darker, headlights cut across the road, blinding her trembling eyes. A sleek car slowed to a halt before her. The door creaked open, and a tall stranger stepped out, his figure looming against the night sky. Amara froze, her breath shallow, fear clawing at her chest. Who was he? A helper, or another trap? Her fate hung in the balance. Would Kevin ever learn the truth? Could her mother survive without her? Or had destiny carved out a harsher path for the girl, who carried both life and danger inside her?
Ken, are you even listening to me? Agnes snapped, tossing her expensive handbag onto the cream leather sofa in Kenneth's penthouse. Her voice sliced through the calm silence like a knife. Kenneth sat across from her, his shirt collar loosened, sipping from a glass of scotch. His eyes were fixed on the skyline of Lagos, shimmering through the glass wall. He didn't flinch. I'm talking to you, Kenneth. She raised her voice, her manicured fingers tapping furiously on the armrest. Do you think you can just sit there drinking while I'm pouring my heart out? You've changed. You don't take me anywhere anymore. You don't buy me things the way you used to. Kenneth finally turned, his voice low but firm. Agnes, I bought you a brand new car last month. What more do you want? She laughed sarcastically. Oh, Kenneth, really? A car? Is that supposed to impress me? Everyone knows you're a billionaire. You spend millions on construction sites every day, but when it comes to me, you act like I'm asking for gold from heaven. Kenneth placed his glass on the table, rubbing his temples. This again? Every single evening, it's the same thing. Agnes, do you ever stop to think about anything beyond handbags, cars, and vacations? Agnes leaned forward, her eyes sharp. Yes. I think about us, Kenneth. Or maybe I should say I think about me. Because clearly, you don't. You bury yourself in those buildings of yours, those workers, those dusty sites. I'm your girlfriend, Kenneth, not some decoration you can ignore. Kenneth exhaled deeply, standing up. His tall frame towered over her as he adjusted his wristwatch. "I don't ignore you, Agnes. But you never seem satisfied. What exactly do you want from me?" Her lips curled into a pout. "I want the life I deserve. A woman like me should be traveling the world, sitting in Paris cafes, posting pictures in Dubai, shopping in Milan. Instead, I'm stuck here, waiting for you to come back from dirty construction sites." Kenneth's jaw tightened. "Those dirty sites pay for your trips, your shoes, your jewelry, Agnes. Those sites feed hundreds of workers and their families. You think my life is about champagne and selfies? I build lives, Agnes. That's my passion." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Passion? Oh, please. You're obsessed, Kenneth. Obsessed with those poor laborers who don't even care about you. And what do I get? Boredom." Kenneth walked toward the window, his voice dropping into a dangerous calm. "Do you hear yourself? You think life is just about showing off. You don't see value in people, only in things. That's the problem." Agnes shot up from the sofa, pointing a finger at him. "No, Kenneth, you're the problem. You've become boring, predictable. I didn't sign up to watch you play philanthropist to construction workers. I signed up to be the girlfriend of a billionaire. But instead, I feel like the girlfriend of a bricklayer." That last word stung. Kenneth's eyes darkened. "You know what, Agnes? Maybe you should reconsider what you signed up for. Because I don't need this drama every single night. I need peace." She scoffed, grabbing her handbag. "Peace? You'll never have peace without me. No woman will ever put up with your dull, dusty life." "Then maybe I'd rather be dull and dusty than suffocated," Kenneth replied, his tone final. The silence that followed was thick. Agnes's eyes widened, as though she couldn't believe he had spoken to her that way. She stormed toward the door, heels clicking angrily against the marble floor. "You'll regret this, Kenneth," she shouted, slamming the door so hard the echo lingered. Kenneth stood still for a moment, the echo of her words mixing with the hum of the city outside. He felt an unexpected calmness, though deep inside, a loneliness tugged at him. Agnes had been part of his life for nearly 3 years, but in truth, he had felt empty for most of that time. Walking back to the sofa, he picked up his glass, staring into the amber liquid. "Maybe she's right about one thing," he muttered under his breath. "Maybe I am obsessed with those sights. But better bricks than broken hearts." He took a long sip, his mind drifting to the work waiting for him the next morning at the new construction site. He had no idea that just a few meters from where he would be standing tomorrow, a struggling mother with twin girls would appear, someone who would turn his carefully planned world upside down. The morning sun beat down on the half-built mansion as dust rose from the ground, mixing with the smell of cement and sweat. Men moved quickly, balancing blocks on their heads, others mixing mortar, their voices echoing in sharp commands. Amid the noise, a woman appeared at the entrance of the site. Her name was Peace. She was 28, her skin glistening with sweat as she clutched the hands of her twin girls. The children, both dressed in faded blue dresses, had simple braided ponytails. They looked tired but clung to their mother with innocent curiosity. Peace adjusted the wrapper around her waist and stepped carefully into the site, her heart pounding. She knew this wasn't a place for children, but desperation had left her with no choice. If she didn't get work today, her girls would sleep hungry again. Spotting the manager, she whispered to herself, "God, touch his heart for me." The site manager, Elias, a stout man in his mid-40s with a stern face and a whistle around his neck, noticed her approach. He frowned. "Madam, this is not a market. What do you want here?" Peace swallowed hard, shifting nervously as her twins pressed closer against her legs. "Sir, please. I'm looking for work. Anything. I can carry blocks, I can fetch water, I can mix sand, anything you want me to do." Elias shook his head. "This is not work for women, especially not for you with these small children. Do you see anybody else here bringing children?" Her eyes welled up. She knelt on the dusty ground, clasping her hands as if in prayer. "Brother, please. Forgive me, but I have no one to leave them with. If I don't work, these little ones will not eat. Do you want them to die of hunger? At least let me try. I am strong. I can work like a man. Just give me a chance." The twins looked up at their mother, their small eyes round with confusion. One of them tugged at her dress and whispered, "Mama, are we going to eat today?" Peace's heart clenched. She forced a smile for her daughters before looking back at Elias. "You hear them, sir? Even if I suffer, I don't want them to suffer. Please, let me carry blocks." "Don't turn me away," Elias sighed, rubbing his forehead. He wasn't a cruel man, but rules were rules. "Woman, if I allow you, every other person will start bringing their children here. This place is dangerous. One block can fall and crush a child." "Then where should I put them, my brother?" Peace's voice broke. "Do you think I like carrying them here? If their father was alive, would I be here begging like this? I have no family to help me. You say it's dangerous? Yes, I know. But hunger is more dangerous than blocks. Hunger will kill them slowly. At least if I work, I can buy them bread." Her words struck something in Elias. He looked at the children again, their dresses faded, their little sandals almost falling apart. His hard expression softened. He muttered, finally nodding. "Okay. I will give you work. But keep those children close to you. If anything happens, it's on your head, not mine. And don't say I didn't warn you." Peace gasped, tears rolling down her cheeks. "God bless you, sir." "God bless you. You won't regret this. I'll work harder than anyone here." The twins, sensing their mother's relief, smiled faintly, though they didn't fully understand what had just happened. As Peace was led to where she would begin carrying water for mixing cement, Kenneth arrived on site, stepping out of his sleek black SUV. Tall, handsome, and well-dressed even for a construction site, he commanded immediate attention. Workers straightened up as he walked past, his eyes scanning the progress of the building. "Morning, Elias," Kenneth greeted, adjusting the sleeves of his suit jacket. "Morning, sir," Elias replied, his voice respectful. Kenneth pointed at a section of the building where scaffolding leaned dangerously. "That's not properly secured. If I see that again, heads will roll. Safety first, Elias. Always safety." "Yes, sir. I'll handle it." Elias quickly scribbled notes in his pad. Kenneth nodded, satisfied, then moved toward another group of workers. His mind was filled with numbers, deadlines, and structural details. He had no idea that only a few meters away, a woman named Peace had just begun her first back-breaking task with her twins by her side. For now, their worlds had not collided, but destiny was already setting the stage. Kenneth hardly slept that night. He tossed and turned in his spacious apartment in Ikoyi, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun lazily. His mind carried the echoes of Agnes's voice, her sharp tone, her constant demands, the suffocating way she had clung to him for 3 long years. He missed her still, but the bitterness was stronger than the longing. Several times he reached for his phone, scrolled through her contact and pressed call. Each time her line rang and rang, but she never picked. By dawn, Kenneth dragged himself out of bed, showered quickly, and put on a crisp gray suit. He needed the distraction of work. The construction site was his sanctuary, a place where he was in control, where everything moved according to plan, unlike his turbulent personal life. The Lagos sun was already high when Kenneth's sleek black SUV pulled up near the half-built estate. He stepped out, tall and broad-shouldered, his shoes crunching on the dusty ground as laborers paused briefly to nod in respect. Kenneth had that effect. His presence demanded attention without him asking. As he walked across the site, barking out quick instructions to supervisors, his eyes suddenly caught movement ahead. A young woman struggled under the weight of a bucket filled with water for mixing cement. She staggered slightly, adjusting her footing on the uneven ground. But what struck him most wasn't the bucket. It was the sight of 2 small children, barely 3 years old, tied firmly at her back with a wrapper. The little girls had simple braided ponytails, their identical blue dresses slightly dusty, their wide eyes scanning the bustling sight with curiosity. Kenneth froze for a moment. His jaw tightened and his brows furrowed. The scene infuriated him. He took quick, angry strides forward. "Stop, stop, stop right there." His voice thundered across the site, halting several workers mid-task. Peace, the young mother, froze in her tracks. She slowly turned, sweat glistening on her forehead. Her faded red dress clung to her from the strain of carrying both the twins and the heavy bucket. Kenneth's eyes burned with disapproval. "What is wrong with you?" he snapped. "Who allowed you here with children on your back? Do you have no sense? Do you want to kill yourself? Or them?" Peace's lips trembled. She set the bucket down gently, her arms aching, and adjusted the twins at her back. "Sir, please," she said softly, almost pleading. I don't have anywhere else to keep them. They are my life. If I don't work, they will not eat. Please, I beg you." Her voice cracked, but Kenneth's face remained stone. "This is a construction site," he said, his tone clipped. "It is dangerous even for men, let alone little children. Iron rods, blocks, cement. All of this could kill them in a second. And you dare walk in here like this?" "Sir, I beg you," Peace whispered again, clutching the wrapper that held her daughters. "I didn't want to bring them, but I have no choice. Please let me work. Even if it's just to carry sand, anything at all, so I can buy them food." Kenneth's patience snapped. "No. I will not allow this nonsense," he barked, his deep voice echoing across the site. "You will not work here with children tied to your back. Take them and leave this place immediately." Tears welled up in Peace's eyes. The twins, sensing their mother's distress, began to whimper softly, their tiny hands clinging to her shoulders. "Sir, please," she tried again, her voice breaking now. "I am begging you in the name of God. Don't send me away. Where will I go? Who will feed them if not me?" Kenneth turned sharply to one of the supervisors standing nearby. "Get Elias for me." Now, moments later, Elias, the site manager, hurried over. He was a middle-aged man, stocky with a slightly graying beard. His face showed signs of worry as he approached Kenneth and Peace. "Sir," Elias greeted, adjusting his yellow helmet nervously. Kenneth pointed angrily at Peace. "Elias, what is the meaning of this? Why did you employ someone who walks in here with children tied to her back? Do you want me to lose this entire project to an accident claim? Do you know how dangerous this is?" Elias raised his hands in defense, glancing at Peace sympathetically. "Sir, please, let me explain. The woman, her name is Peace. She came yesterday, desperate for work. She told me she had no one to leave the children with, but she begged me. I couldn't turn her away, sir. She was stranded." Kenneth's nostrils flared. "Stranded?" His voice dripped with sarcasm. "So because she is stranded, you bring liability onto my site? Are we running a charity here, Elias? Or a construction business?" Elias swallowed hard. "Sir, I understand, but she is only trying to survive. If you look at her, you will see she is not lazy. She is willing to work. The children, they are the only reason." The words dropped like a hammer. Peace's knees grew weak. She stepped forward, trembling, her tears now streaming freely down her cheeks. "Sir, please don't do this to me," she cried. "Please, I will do anything. Don't take this job away from me. My children have not eaten since yesterday. If I leave here, I don't know where I will go. Please, sir." The twins began to cry loudly now, their little voices rising above the sounds of hammers and cement mixers. Peace struggled to pat their backs, her own tears falling onto their hair. Kenneth's eyes flickered, but his expression stayed firm. His voice came out colder than before. "That is not my problem. You should have thought about this before bringing children into the world. You cannot endanger them here. You are fired. Leave this place now." Peace's body shook as she clutched her daughters tighter. Her sobs broke the silence around them. Even some laborers nearby paused, pity flashing in their eyes, but none dared to intervene. Elias shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, please, maybe we can find her something else, something less risky. Even if it's just sweeping or fetching water outside the main site. She is desperate. I don't think she has anywhere to go." Kenneth glared at him. "Elias," I said, "no. I cannot allow children here. I don't care if she sweeps or carries blocks, it is still dangerous. Let her find work somewhere else." End of discussion. Peace dropped to her knees suddenly, her voice hoarse with pleading. "Sir, I beg you, in the name of Almighty God. Have mercy, I cannot go back home like this. We will starve. Please, please." Her cries pierced the air, but Kenneth hardened his heart. He turned away, signaling the discussion was over. "Elias, handle it. I don't want to see her on this site again," Kenneth ordered, walking off briskly. Peace remained on her knees, broken, hugging her crying twins. Her voice trembled as she whispered prayers under her breath. Elias sighed heavily, kneeling beside her. "Peace, please," he said softly. "Get up. I am sorry. I wanted to help you, but Kenneth, his word is final. Let me see if I can talk to him later. For now, just go. Please." Peace slowly rose, wiping her face with the back of her hand. She looked in the direction Kenneth had gone, her heart heavy with bitterness. The twins clung to her, their cries slowly turning into hiccups. With weak steps, she picked up the empty bucket and began to walk away from the site, her dreams of survival crushed before they could even begin. Kenneth returned home that evening, but his mind was far from the site. The image of the young woman kneeling on the dusty ground with tears in her eyes, clutching her little girls, refused to leave him. He had seen countless laborers beg for chances before, but something about her desperation, the way her voice cracked as she pleaded for her children's survival, gnawed at him in a way he hadn't felt in years. He sat in his living room, the wide space of his luxurious apartment almost echoing in silence. His gray suit jacket hung carelessly on the sofa arm, and a glass of whiskey stood untouched on the table before him. For the first time in a long time, Kenneth didn't feel in control. "Why is her face still in my head?" he muttered to himself. He ran his hand through his short hair, sighing heavily. "It's not my responsibility. She should find work elsewhere," but the tears in her eyes, and the way the twins had cried. The sound was like a wound replaying itself in his chest. After several minutes of restless pacing, he reached for his phone. With a reluctant sigh, he dialed Elias's number. "Hello, sir?" Elias's voice came on the line, respectful but weary. "Elias," Kenneth said sharply, though his tone was softer than usual. "That woman, the one with the twins, what do you know about her?" There was silence for a moment, and then Elias sighed. "Sir, her name is Peace. She's been struggling for some time now. Her husband, he died in a car accident about 2 years ago. Since then, she has been alone with her twin daughters. No family to support her. She does petty jobs, hawks, carries loads, anything at all she can find just to keep food on the table for those children. She came to me desperate. That's why I allowed her in, even though I knew the rules." Kenneth sat back slowly, his throat tightening. "Her husband died?" "Yes, sir. It has not been easy for her. I think yesterday was the first time she had even managed to get a construction job. She came with tears in her eyes, begging. Sir, I know it was wrong to let her in with the children, but I could not look her in the face and turn her away." Kenneth closed his eyes, guilt washing over him. He had shouted at her, called her irresponsible, fired her in front of everyone. He remembered her broken voice. "Please, I beg you in the name of Almighty God," and his own cold response. "That is not my problem." He rubbed his forehead, the whiskey still untouched. For the first time, his actions weighed heavy on his conscience. "All right," Kenneth said quietly. "Where does she stay?" "Sir?" "Her house. Where does she live?" Tomorrow you will take me there." Elias hesitated, then replied softly, "Yes, sir. I will take you." The next day, the sun was already blazing over Lagos when Kenneth's SUV pulled up again at the construction site. Workers paused as usual, nodding their greetings, but Kenneth didn't stay to issue instructions. Elias was already waiting. "Sir, should we go now?" Elias asked. Kenneth nodded curtly. "Yes, take me to her place." The drive wasn't long, but it was a world apart from Kenneth's polished life. As they left the well-paved roads, the streets grew narrower, dustier, with little houses packed tightly together. Children played barefoot in the dust, women carried bowls of water on their heads, and the sound of hawkers filled the air. Finally, they stopped in front of a small, crumbling one-room building. The walls were cracked, and a faded curtain hung where a door should have been. "There," Elias said quietly, pointing. Kenneth stepped out, his polished shoes crunching on the dirt. For a moment he stood still, adjusting to the stark reality before him. Then he walked toward the small house. Inside, Peace sat on a wooden stool, her head bent as she mended a small torn dress with needle and thread. Her twins sat on the floor beside her, playing with bottle tops, their laughter soft but fragile. The girls were dressed in their blue gowns, slightly worn but still neat. When Peace heard footsteps, she looked up, startled. Her eyes widened when she saw Kenneth standing at the doorway with Elias. She quickly rose, adjusting her faded red dress. Her heart pounded in fear. Was he here to mock her again? "Sir," she said softly, her voice trembling. "You?" Kenneth hesitated, his usual commanding tone softened. "Yes, it's me. May I come in?" Peace nodded slowly, stepping aside to let him in. The twins looked up curiously, their little eyes studying the tall stranger in the neat gray suit. Kenneth stepped inside, the small space making his imposing figure seem even larger. He glanced around. There was barely any furniture, only a small bed pushed against the wall, the stool, and a small wooden table with a few utensils. The air was heavy with the weight of poverty. For the first time, Kenneth felt out of place. His throat tightened. He looked at Peace, her short hair slightly damp from the heat, her face still showing traces of sadness. "Peace," he began slowly, his voice lower than usual. I know I spoke harshly yesterday. I did not tell you in a good way. But you must understand, it is dangerous for your children to be at the site. I cannot allow them there. If something had happened to them..." He trailed off, shaking his head. "It would have destroyed me." Peace lowered her gaze, her hands tightening around the wrapper at her waist. "Sir, I understand. But I did not know what else to do. I needed work. My girls, they depend on me. I had no choice." Kenneth looked at her for a long moment, his jaw tightening as guilt pricked him again. He turned to glance at the twins, who were now shyly hiding behind their mother's legs, peeking at him. He cleared his throat. "Listen. I have a house. A very big house. Too big, honestly. I live there alone. I need someone to keep it clean. You can work there as a cleaner. It will be safer for you, and..." He hesitated, then added firmly, "You can bring your children. I have enough rooms. You can stay in one of them." The room went silent. Peace blinked, stunned. She had expected another rebuke, not an offer. "Sir, did I hear you well? You mean I should come to your house? With my children?" Kenneth nodded. "Yes. You will have a salary. You will not have to risk their lives on construction sites again. And they will not go hungry." Tears welled up in Peace's eyes instantly. She pressed her palm to her lips, struggling to hold back the sob that threatened to escape. "Sir," her voice cracked. "God bless you. I don't even know what to say. I have prayed for help. Maybe this is God's answer." The twins, not fully understanding, clung to her legs tighter. One of them whispered, "Mama, who is he?" Peace bent down, stroking their hair. "He is someone who wants to help us," she whispered, her tears finally spilling down her cheeks. Kenneth turned his face slightly, hiding the strange tightness in his chest. He had not planned for this, yet something about this woman and her children stirred a compassion he had long buried beneath ambition and pride. "Pack what you need," he said, clearing his throat again. "We will leave soon. Elias and I will wait outside." Peace nodded quickly, her hands trembling as she began to gather the few belongings she owned, a small bag of clothes, a few utensils, and the torn dress she had been sewing. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and hope. Outside, Kenneth stood silently, staring at the dusty street. Elias glanced at him, curious. "Sir," Elias said cautiously, "this is a big step. Are you sure?" Kenneth's jaw tightened. "Yes, she cannot survive like this, and I cannot forget her face." Minutes later, Peace stepped out, holding her twins by their tiny hands, the bag slung over her shoulder. Her eyes were still wet, but her face held a new glimmer of hope. Kenneth opened the car door for her. She hesitated briefly, then helped the twins climb in before sliding in herself. As the SUV pulled away from the small house, Peace looked back through the window. The little one-room home that had held so many struggles grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared from view. She turned to look at her daughters, then at Kenneth, her heart whispering silently, "Maybe this is the beginning of something new." Kenneth kept his eyes on the road, but deep inside, he knew his life had just taken a turn he hadn't expected. The mansion was unlike anything Peace had ever seen. Every room gleamed, the polished floors reflected the morning sun, and the air smelled faintly of fresh paint and polished wood. For a moment, she felt completely out of place. Her faded red dress and worn slippers standing out in the vastness of Kenneth's home. The twins clung tightly to her hands, their small blue dresses slightly wrinkled from the drive, their braided ponytails bouncing as they tried to peek around the enormous living room. Kenneth, walking beside them, was calm and measured. He gestured for them to come in, a small smile softening his usual stern face. "Welcome home," he said, his voice gentle. "This is yours as much as mine, at least for now." The twins glanced at him cautiously, then buried their faces in Peace's legs. They had never been in a place so big, nor seen a man so tall and imposing. Peace bent down and whispered to them softly, "It's okay, my loves. He won't hurt us. See? He's smiling." Kenneth knelt slightly to get closer to their level, keeping his hands out of reach at first. "Hello, little ones," he said warmly. "I'm Kenneth, but you can call me Uncle Kenneth if you like. What are your names?" The twins looked at each other, whispering in little tones. Then one of them timidly said, "Lola." "And I," the other piped up shyly, "Tommy." Kenneth nodded. "Lola and Tommy. Very beautiful names. Do you like this house?" The girls glanced around, then back at Peace, unsure how to answer. Kenneth chuckled softly. "It's okay if you're shy. I'll go slow." He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 small wrapped candies. "Here, I have something for you." Just for trying to smile at me, Peace whispered quickly, "It's okay, girls. You can take it." Hesitantly, the twins took the sweets and peeked up at Kenneth, a little spark of curiosity in their eyes. The first morning started with Peace tidying up the main living area. She had been told she could stay in the smaller wing of the mansion with the twins, and now she moved carefully across the pristine floors, dusting surfaces and organizing some of the scattered belongings she had brought. Kenneth appeared in the doorway, observing her movements. "Peace, that's good, but remember, I hired you as a cleaner. You don't have to cook yet. Somebody can bring food every day. You don't need to waste time or money buying ingredients." Peace paused, holding a small cloth in her hand. "Sir, I can cook. I am a good cook. Besides, buying food outside every day is expensive, and the twins—" Kenneth raised his hand with a small laugh. "No, no, no. I can cook. You focus on the cleaning. We'll manage the food. That's why you're here." Peace nodded reluctantly, but smiled faintly. She understood his point. Still, the next day she decided to cook a small meal anyway. Something simple: rice and stew. She packed a small container for Kenneth, thinking he might like a home-cooked meal. When she offered it to him, Kenneth's eyebrows rose slightly. "You really went ahead and did this?" he asked, a half-amused, half-impressed smile on his face. "Yes, sir. Just a little. I know you said I didn't have to, but I thought—" Peace trailed off, embarrassed. Kenneth shook his head, chuckling softly. "Okay, Peace. Thank you. I'll try it later. But don't feel pressured. We'll adjust slowly." The twins, meanwhile, were slowly warming up to Kenneth. He had taken to playful little conversations, crouching down or kneeling on the floor whenever he saw them. "Lola," he said one afternoon, holding a small toy car, "do you know this is a super-fast racing car?" "Only the brave drive it," Lola hesitated, then slowly reached out, her tiny fingers brushing the toy. It will go fast?" Kenneth smiled. "The fastest. You just have to push it carefully and steer with courage." He gave the car a gentle push, and it rolled across the marble floor. Lola squealed with delight, her fear giving way to cautious excitement. Tommy, seeing her sister laugh, tentatively took a small plush toy Kenneth handed her. It's soft," she whispered. "Yes, Tommy. That's your little helper," Kenneth said, smiling. "We can have adventures together. But only if we're brave." The girls giggled, still a little shy, but clearly enjoying the attention. Peace watched from the corner, her heart swelling. For the first time in months, her daughters were laughing in safety, and she could feel some of her own tension easing. As days passed, the routines in Kenneth's mansion began to settle. Peace cleaned diligently, maintaining the order of the mansion, while Kenneth occasionally checked on the twins, engaging them in playful conversations that gradually chipped away at their initial fear. One afternoon, Kenneth found Peace folding laundry in the service area. "Peace, you really don't need to do everything at once," he said. "Take a break. The twins need attention too. You can rest while they play nearby." Peace looked up, a little embarrassed. "Sir, I just want to make this place neat. I want it comfortable for you, for all of us." Kenneth's voice softened. "It's already comfortable, Peace. I'm fine. You focus on what's necessary. And the girls, they need someone to watch them too. Let them come near me. I won't hurt them." Hesitant but trusting, Peace nodded, bringing Lola and Tommy closer. The twins now edged toward Kenneth, holding each other's hands. Kenneth crouched again, extending a finger for them to touch. "Come on, I'm not scary," he said playfully. "I promise." The girls hesitated, then gently tapped his finger. Kenneth laughed softly. "That's brave. Very brave. High five." Lola and Tommy exchanged glances, unsure at first, then lifted their tiny hands for a high five with Kenneth. Their laughter, bright and innocent, filled the mansion's large room. Peace's eyes glimmered with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. Her daughters were safe, happy, and slowly, she herself was beginning to feel hope that she could finally breathe. By evening, the mansion settled into quiet. Peace finished the last touches of cleaning. The twins sat on a small couch playing with colored blocks, and Kenneth prepared to cook a simple dinner. He glanced at the girls and smiled. "You know," he said quietly to Peace, "you don't need to worry so much. You have a safe place now. The girls can play, you can work, and I'll handle the rest." Peace nodded, exhausted but relieved. "Thank you, sir. For everything. I don't know how to repay you." Kenneth shrugged, a faint smile on his lips. "Just keep your family safe and happy. That's all I ask." And as the night deepened over Lagos, for the first time in what felt like forever, Peace allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things were finally looking up. The mansion was unusually quiet that morning. Peace had just finished tidying the dining area. The twins were playing with building blocks on the living room floor, giggling softly as they stacked them into precarious towers. Kenneth had left early for a meeting at one of his construction sites, leaving the house in Peace's careful hands. The serenity was suddenly shattered by the sharp screech of the front gate. Peace looked toward the sound, wiping her hands on her faded red dress. "Who could that be?" she muttered. The door swung open and in walked Alice, Kenneth's girlfriend. She was a striking woman in her late 20s, fashionably dressed in a designer blouse and skirt, with hair perfectly styled and jewelry glinting in the sunlight, but her eyes immediately narrowed as they swept over the living room. "And what is this?" Alice's voice rang out, dramatic and piercing, as she pointed at the twins laughing on the floor. "Who are these little rats? What are they doing here?" Lola and Tommy froze, unsure how to react. Their small hands paused mid-stack, eyes wide and fearful. Peace stepped forward from the kitchen doorway, her short hair slightly messy from her morning chores, and her voice firm despite the apprehension in her heart. "Don't call my children rats," she said, her hands resting lightly on her daughter's shoulders. Her tone was calm but unwavering. "They are 3 years old. And this is my home too, in a way. Please show some respect." Alice's lips curled into a dramatic smirk. "Oh, you're the madam of this house now, are you? Careful, my dear. I am the girlfriend of Kenneth, the lady of this mansion. You better remember your place." Peace didn't flinch. She swallowed and said softly, "I mean no disrespect. But my children are my world. They are not to be insulted." Alice scoffed and waved a manicured hand dismissively. We'll see about that." With a huff, she swept toward the main bedroom to wait for Kenneth, her high heels clicking sharply against the polished floors. When Kenneth returned, he found Alice sitting on the edge of his bed, a dramatic look of impatience etched across her face. The twins had retreated slightly behind Peace, peeking out nervously. Kenneth cleared his throat. "Alice," he said evenly, "I want you to meet someone." He gestured toward Peace and the twins. "This is Peace, my cleaner, and these are her children." Lola and Tommy. Alice gasped dramatically, sitting upright and placing a perfectly manicured hand on her chest. "Your cleaner? With children? Here?" Her voice cracked slightly, half in disbelief, half in theatrics. She waved toward the living room. "Among all the cleaners you employ, you choose someone who comes here with these little—" "Stop," Kenneth said firmly, holding up a hand. His expression was serious, cutting through the dramatics. "Alice, stop. I understand this is new for you, but Peace is a responsible woman. She has children. They are part of her life. You will show respect." Alice's eyes narrowed, her face flushed with indignation. "Responsible?" she exclaimed. "Responsible? Look at them. Look at how they just messed up your living room. How do they even survive? How do they keep anything clean?" She gestured at a few small blocks scattered on the floor from the girls' morning play. Peace's short hair framed her calm but defensive expression. "Sir," she said softly, "I've been cleaning all morning. The twins just play while I tidy. They do not destroy anything. Please, this is normal for children their age." Kenneth exhaled slowly, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Alice, I said stop. I will handle this. Please go to the bedroom while we settle this. You will not insult my staff or my home." Alice dramatically huffed and turned on her heel, retreating to the main bedroom, muttering under her breath. Peace gathered the twins and hugged them close, whispering reassurances. "Don't worry, my loves. You did nothing wrong." Kenneth knelt down to the twins' level, his imposing figure softened by a warm smile. "Lola, Tommy, it's okay. She doesn't understand yet, but you are safe. I promise." The girls looked up at him, still wary but sensing the protective energy radiating from Kenneth. One of them whispered, "Uncle Kenneth?" "Yes, that's me," he said gently. "I will always look out for you too." Peace stood silently, watching the growing bond between Kenneth and her daughters, feeling a mixture of relief and awe. This man, who had seemed so intimidating at first, was slowly becoming someone she could trust, not just for work, but for her children's safety. Alice, meanwhile, continued to glare from the bedroom. She tapped her perfectly manicured fingers on the bed frame, muttering theatrically, "A cleaner, with children, in my house. This is unacceptable. Kenneth didn't respond immediately. He stayed on the living room floor with the twins, helping them stack their blocks properly, teaching them to build small towers with laughter and gentle guidance. Peace joined him quietly, folding a small blanket nearby, grateful for this small moment of peace amid the tension. As the afternoon sun streamed through the mansion windows, the living room echoed with the soft giggles of the twins and the calm authority of Kenneth's voice. Outside, Alice continued her dramatic pacing, unaware that a quiet battle of patience and trust had already begun, one that would determine the future of everyone in the mansion. The day ended with Kenneth standing near the staircase, glancing toward the bedroom. Peace had prepared a small corner for the twins, complete with their toys neatly arranged. The girls hugged each other, feeling safe under her protective gaze. Kenneth turned to Peace. "You're doing well," he said quietly. "They are happy, and so are you. Don't let her words upset you. This house is for all of us now." Peace nodded, a faint smile on her tired but determined face. "Thank you, sir. For everything. For believing in me. And them." Kenneth looked down at the twins playing on the floor, their laughter filling the room. He felt a strange, unexpected warmth in his chest. For the first time in a long time, home didn't feel empty. The days that followed were nothing short of a nightmare. From the moment Alice reappeared in Kenneth's life, her voice filled the mansion like a stubborn echo. She didn't just speak. She barked, complained, and criticized. The twins, who once ran freely around the living room with innocent giggles, now shrank into corners whenever Alice raised her voice. "Can't you keep those little brats quiet?" Alice snapped one morning, throwing her handbag onto the sofa with force. "I can't even hear myself think." Peace, holding a spoon in one hand and wiping her daughter's mouth with the other, turned slowly. Her eyes carried patience, but her lips trembled with restrained anger. "They are not brats," she said firmly. "They are children. My children." Alice gave her a sharp, mocking laugh. "Children? Oh, please. They look more like stray cats running around my boyfriend's house. Don't get too comfortable, little Miss Cleaner. This is my place, not yours." Kenneth, who had just returned from the construction site in his dusty boots and rolled-up sleeves, overheard the commotion. He sighed deeply, wiping sweat from his forehead with a towel. He looked at the twins, then at Alice. "Alice, enough," he said, his tone sharp but tired. "Peace is here to work." Respect that Alice threw up her hands dramatically. "Work? You call this work? She eats here, she sleeps here with her bastards, and you even pay her. Kenneth, why don't you just admit it? You've turned my boyfriend's house into a charity home." Kenneth clenched his jaw, suppressing the anger boiling inside him. Without another word, he walked past them into the bathroom to wash off the day's sweat and dust, leaving Peace to stand in silence, her children clinging to her legs. That evening, Peace prepared a steaming pot of jollof rice with fried chicken. The aroma filled the house, and for the first time, the children laughed freely again as Peace hummed a soft tune while stirring the pot. Kenneth returned home, exhausted, but his face lit up at the smell of home-cooked food. He sat at the dining table, pulling his twins into his lap as Peace served them plates. Alice watched from the corner, her face twisted with jealousy. She folded her arms, tapping her heel on the tiled floor. "So this is what it's come to?" she sneered. "You're cleaner cooks now? What am I then? A visitor in my own house?" Kenneth looked at her steadily. "You've never cared for these things before. You don't cook, Alice. You don't even try. Don't mock someone who is doing what you refuse to do." Alice gasped, her voice rising to a shriek. "Oh, so now the maid has replaced me?" Look at her, smiling as if she's the madam here. "Kenneth, this is an insult. I won't stand for it." Peace lowered her gaze but didn't stop serving. She placed food gently before Kenneth and the children, her heart swelling with quiet pride. For the first time in years, she had found a rhythm of happiness, even if it was constantly under attack by Alice's poisonous tongue. But Kenneth had reached his limit. Each insult, each cruel word Alice threw, only widened the gap between them. And though he kept his silence, his eyes said it all. He was tired. Tired of the chaos, tired of Alice's dramatics, and tired of defending peace from a woman who didn't know the meaning of kindness. Kenneth had always known that Alice had a sharp tongue, but what he witnessed in those final days of her stay was something that pushed him to a breaking point. It began with small, biting remarks, Alice sneering at the twins' laughter echoing through the house, or rolling her eyes when Peace quietly set the table. Kenneth tried to overlook it at first. He told himself she was adjusting, that perhaps she was just unsettled by how different his house had become since her absence. But each day, the sharpness in Alice's voice grew louder, her discontent turning into hostility. One evening, Kenneth came back from the construction site exhausted. The sun had beaten down on him all day, and the dust of the site still clung to his clothes. All he wanted was a quiet dinner, maybe even the gentle laughter of the twins, which had strangely started to soothe his heart after long days. Instead, what greeted him was Alice's shrill voice, raised so high it carried through the hallway before he even stepped into the living room. "You think you can turn this mansion into a daycare?" she spat, standing in the middle of the room, her designer handbag tossed angrily onto the sofa. "These children are tearing this house apart, Kenneth. Look at the stains on the couch, the noise in the mornings. Is this what you call peace?" Kenneth froze for a moment, hearing the fear in the twins' quiet sobs behind the curtain. Peace was crouched down, trying to soothe them, her short hair damp with sweat, her faded red dress clinging to her back. She looked up at Kenneth with weary eyes that said everything without words, eyes that pleaded, eyes that carried dignity despite the humiliation. Kenneth felt something twist in his chest. He had tolerated Alice's dramatics before. He had endured her endless demands for expensive trips, jewelry, and grand dinners. But this was cruelty directed at the innocent. "Alice," Kenneth said slowly, his voice low but steady. "Enough." But Alice only scoffed. "Enough? You bring a woman from the street into your home. You let her children run around as if they own the place, and now you're telling me enough? Do you even realize what people will say when they see you surrounded by this filth?" Peace lowered her gaze, swallowing back tears. The twins clung to her arms, their small faces buried in her faded dress. That was the moment Kenneth realized something had shifted in him. The man he once was, the man who tolerated Alice's disrespect because of her beauty, her charm, her allure, no longer existed. He had grown tired, not only of her words but of the emptiness behind them. "You should leave," Kenneth said, his voice firmer now. Alice blinked in disbelief. "What did you just say?" "I said you should leave," he repeated. "This is my home, and I won't allow anyone to mistreat these children, or their mother, under my roof." "You were gone for months, Alice. You walked out when it mattered. And now you're back, trying to reclaim what you abandoned. But this house is not yours anymore. Not in spirit, not in love." Her eyes widened with rage, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling as she pointed at him. "You're choosing them? That woman and her brats over me. Do you know who I am, Kenneth?" Kenneth stepped closer, his tall frame casting a shadow across the room. "I know exactly who you are. And I also know who you are not. You are not the woman I need in my life." The silence that followed was deafening. Peace held her breath, her heart pounding as she tried to process what had just unfolded. Alice, too stunned to speak further, grabbed her handbag, her heels clattering furiously against the marble floor as she stormed out. The sound of the heavy door slamming shut behind her felt like the end of an era. The tension was unusually quiet. The tension that had gripped the household for weeks dissolved like mist. Peace tucked her daughters into bed, whispering softly to them, while Kenneth sat alone in his study, staring out at the city lights. He thought of Alice, of the years wasted chasing after someone who never truly loved him, who only loved the wealth and status he could provide. He thought of Peace, too, the quiet resilience in her voice, the strength in her eyes even when she was being humiliated. He thought of the twins, whose innocent laughter had started to bring life into his otherwise lonely home. And as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the bond between Kenneth, Peace, and the twins only grew stronger. Peace began to transform the mansion, not with expensive furniture or glamorous parties, but with warmth. The smell of home-cooked meals filled the kitchen again. The twins' laughter echoed through the halls like music, softening the cold walls that once stood in silence. Kenneth found himself drawn to the small joys, the way one of the twins would run up to him when he returned from the site, giggling with excitement, the way Peace's hands worked skillfully in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred a pot, the way she laughed quietly at the twins' playful mischief, her laughter like a balm to his tired soul. At first, Kenneth tried to resist the pull in his heart. He told himself Peace was just his cleaner, that the bond he felt with her children was accidental. But love, as it often does, grew quietly and steadily. He found himself lingering in the kitchen just to watch her cook, or sitting with the twins on the floor, pretending to be serious while they wrapped his tall frame in their childish games. There was one evening, months after Alice's departure, when the truth became undeniable. Peace had prepared a simple meal, jollof rice, fried plantain, and grilled fish. They sat together at the dining table, the twins chattering endlessly between bites, and Kenneth caught himself smiling more than he had in years. Peace laughed at something one of the girls said, her short hair catching the light, her eyes sparkling in a way he had never noticed before. Kenneth felt his heart swell, a quiet realization settling over him. This was family. This was home. From then on, he stopped resisting. He began to spend more time with them, not as an employer, but as a man who cared deeply. He helped the twins with their little drawings, carried them on his shoulders, listened to their endless questions about the world. With Peace, the conversations grew longer, deeper. She told him about her late husband, about the struggles of raising twins alone, about her fears and her dreams. Kenneth, in turn, opened up about his own life, the loneliness hidden behind his success, the mistakes he had made with Alice, the longing for something real. And in that sharing, love blossomed. It wasn't sudden, nor was it dramatic. It was steady, gentle, like the rising of the sun after a long night. Then one evening, Kenneth decided it was time. The mansion was quiet, the twins already asleep in their room. Peace was in the living room, folding freshly laundered clothes, her hands moving with the rhythm of someone who had worked hard all her life. Kenneth walked in, dressed simply in a white shirt and dark trousers, his heart beating with a nervousness he hadn't felt in years. "Peace," he said softly. She looked up, surprised by the tone in his voice. "Yes, sir?" Kenneth smiled faintly. "You can stop calling me sir." She blinked, confused. "But you're my employer." He stepped closer, his eyes holding hers. "No, Peace. I'm more than that now. And you're more to me than just someone I hired. You've become the heart of this home. You and your daughters have given me a kind of peace I never knew I needed, and I don't want to imagine this house, or my life, without you." Peace's hands stilled on the folded cloth, her breath catching in her throat. Kenneth reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. He opened it, revealing a simple but elegant ring that glimmered under the soft light. "Peace," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Will you marry me?" Tears welled in her eyes as she stared at him, her heart pounding. All the struggles she had endured, all the humiliations, all the sleepless nights worrying about her daughter's future. Suddenly, they all led to this moment. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "Yes, Kenneth." "I will." Kenneth slid the ring onto her finger, and in that quiet living room, surrounded by the faint sound of the twins' soft breathing in the distance, their lives changed forever. The mansion, once a place of loneliness and tension, had become a home, filled with laughter, filled with love, filled with the promise of a future built not on wealth or glamour, but on family. And so Kenneth, Peace, and the twins became what they were always meant to be, a family. The end. Thank you so much for watching Inspiring Stories. May God bless in me.